you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Snap Bingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College, Bingo Road. GMS Snap Bingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.
Hello and welcome to Second Take with IDK this beautiful Friday, should I say. We have seen the start of the World Cup. So excited. We have lots to talk about, mainly about the World Cup, but as well as a bit of rugby and the NBA. What a game during the week. My name is Mevo Kevirunji with the man himself, Isma.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
I am Ismail Dakaba Chigongo, dedicated my adult life to sport, and particularly sports journalism.
And today we are at a beautiful hair salon, UD's, here in Mbuya, UD's Hub, opposite Rivonia Suites. It is on the famous Robert Mugabe Road. I'm sure many people have heard of Robert Mugabe Road in Mbuya. So this is the lovely place we are at. You can come get your hair done, makeup, and of course your nails as well.
You know, maybe you know when we arrived here and someone spoke about makeup.
Yes.
Your face lit up.
Yeah, but Isma.
Yeah, I noticed your face lit up, and I know that you don't trust your original version that I have known for what? The original you have known for 13, 14 years. So yeah, I was shocked that you lit up.
Isma, but men are visual, aren't they?
Yes, very visual.
Yes. So when we enhance ourselves, I don't think we are doing it for ourselves.
Really? Some women pretend to be doing it for themselves. Yeah, but we are very, very visual. I make 99% of the decisions in my life from what I see, not what I feel. Yeah, what I see comes before what I feel. And this is one of the places you can feel. I see at the back is a lady who is working on her nails. I haven't had a nail do in a very long time. I've had a few, but it's been long. It's now, 3 years since I had one. It's something that it's very easy to forget. Yet there is someone who watches this show. She works in downtown around Mukwana Arcade. And one of the things she notices is the nails. Yeah, so I'm always shocked that of all the things, like, so sometimes she goes like, hey, so
do you bite, like when you're in a very tense game, you're at home, you're on the edge of your seat, are you there biting your nails?
There are very few sports games that put me on the edge of my seat. So now I don't. I only bite when I'm very lazy to cut them and forget, so then I can... I do bite them when they grow, but it can no longer be for sport, no?
It can't be for sport. But your place is not very far from here, Mbuya, where we are at UD's Hub. So please, Isma, as well as your people and all of you watching us here in the area, please come and check out UD's Hub. So this week, yesterday, we saw the start of the World Cup, which... apart from the opening ceremony, there had been so much talk. But before we get into the so much talk, what were your highlights from the opening ceremony?
There was so much color. I haven't seen that much color at one single event, like the opening ceremony in Mexico City. I thought well attended.
Oh yeah.
Before the TV pictures started coming to us, there had been a story that I was reading on Reuters around the protests that had been happening outside the stadium, because there are so many Mexicans who showed up to protest against social injustice. They feel their government does not serve its people equally. And in my mind, I was thinking, which government does? There is none in the world that has achieved 100% social justice. Even the countries that I think are the best to live in, at least according to Human Capital Index, that is Norway, Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, and Luxembourg. You could add New Zealand to that, right at the bottom. even there, I don't think I've achieved the kind of social justice that the Mexicans were fighting for. So there was a huge protest before the game. But eventually, when the television images came to television, one of the things you're hoping for is that when the game starts, then everyone moves on from all the other impurities that we all have experienced before the tournament. Because before every World Cup, all these stories are very common, especially from around 2010. Maybe when I was younger, I had not got the opportunity to understand the world geopolitics. And I may not have read what people were saying around South Korea and Japan in 2002. And they don't have said anything negative around Germany in 2006. But the story, I think, has got much louder since 2010 because of South Africa, the crime rate, the income inequality. Then you go to Brazil, then you move to Russia with human rights abuses that Vladimir Putin is accused of. Then you move to Qatar, then where we are. So there's all been these things around because it's the US, those are not the kind of stories that come out. So the stories have been totally different. So you're hoping that once opening ceremony comes around, all those things are buried. And you could notice, I think, globally, and one of those was very excited about seeing Shakira. I'm a big fan.
Were you a bit underwhelmed? She could have done more, I thought.
You want her to shake like she did 20 years ago?
Waka Waka. Did I miss the Ghetto Kids?
They're actually going to perform at the closing ceremony.
The closing
ceremony later on. That's what I got to learn from their management. You wanted that to shake like 20 years ago. Neither can you do the things you did 20 years ago.
No, but for them,
because if you made an attempt and you're still in very good shape, the kind that Shakira would be very proud. Even with all, you're going to include surgeries and the kind of teams they have around them and dieting and all these kind of things that should be able. Now, I think also the music has evolved. Would children now be as excited as we were when we first watched Hips Don't Lie?
Oh my goodness.
Would they? When you
Probably.
and I first watched Hips Don't Lie?
I don't know, what do children like these days?
What age group? Because these days they also have very wide tastes. But I thought, okay, I didn't I didn't think I would see the same Shakira of many years ago. I think she even looked leaner.
Yeah.
And that can only be deliberate. I don't, in our community, when you tell someone they've lost weight, it can be a compliment for problems in their life. And when you tell them they've gained weight, it's a compliment of the money they've made. Yet it can be illness on both sides. It's very, I'm always very careful in commenting about the weight of people. I can comment about yours. I don't think you'd be offended. But there's so many other people I wouldn't make the same mistake. So she looked leaner than she's been. I thought Burna Boy, I always make a reference when he first came here for an event that is a Club Mega Fest. One day Brandon will tell the story when we do the Luganda version. When Burna Boy first came here, I was only a kid. The concert was at Namboli so many years ago. I happened to go there and leave very early because it didn't turn out as good as I thought when I first went there. And he's gone way bigger than when he first came. Because when he first
came, is he one
here,
of Africa's biggest exports right now?
Isn't he Africa's biggest export? That should be the question. You remove the one.
Okay.
We are very careful with not using finality, but in this case, I want to borrow a bit of finality. So I thought the ceremony itself, the first thing that came to my mind, like when you started, was colorful. Yeah, there was a lot of color, and the people inside the stadium, I think, were genuinely excited.
And the tradition, I saw the Mexican tradition.
Yeah, there was a lot of Mexican tradition. Yeah. A lot of Spanish clothing or Caribbean stuff, and they love their floral clothing quite a bit. So I thought it was as good as FIFA could deliver. The thing, though, is that with this World Cup, maybe after all three ceremonies are done, then we come here and do a comparison. And not even cultural artists, maybe would have to invite someone like Andrew Kagwa to come and help us, because then the Canadians are going to have their own, and then the Americans will have also their own opening ceremony. It's a once in a generation life World Cup kind of thing, to have 3 hosts and then to have 48 countries. So the tradition was quite wide, yeah, to be able to get the entire global showpiece underway.
Isma, on this show, I told you that I felt Infantino was not doing enough. Infantino, okay, and because he's Italian. I felt the FIFA president was not doing enough, and I feel vindicated. Isma, you didn't agree with me, but that's okay. People here are here for your opinion and not mine.
I still do disagree with the one.
Embarrassment. I mean, I was obsessed with Omar Atan, and I kept on, trying to read as much as I could about him, and I'm so glad he has gotten an opportunity to referee the final in UEFA. Called him for that game in August against PSG and Aston Villa. What an embarrassment.
FIFA do not have the rights on who is admitted into a country.
Come on, that's exactly what he said. But for him to sit back and say, chill, relax, they are not fighting hard enough. And that's my problem, because I think Europeans don't understand the predicament. And that's why I told you, who is fighting for the Congolese right now?
I love that you love the underdog, but I've grown old enough to understand that the world works for those who have power. And America has that power in plenty. And maybe FIFA would have known much prior. There's, ever since President Donald Trump came into power, there's been a ban on Muslim majority countries entering into the US, and Somalia is one of them. I speak to a bit of the Somali community here, and there's also been a bit of a ramp up on their families in Minnesota, where they've been asked to leave, some of them, and some of them who are either waiting for asylum processes, have been asked to leave. So I'm not one of those who was very, very surprised. Actually, I would have been surprised for Mar Atan was in the US. But the world is so uneven that Russia were not given an opportunity to play in the qualifiers for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar because of their invasion of Ukraine. And where we are presently, the US has invaded everything and everyone. And there is an ongoing war in Iran because the US thinks no one should have nuclear power. So I'm one of those who is not surprised. I would actually have been surprised. However, I also think that FIFA have their hands tied. When they chose to expand the World Cup from 32 to 48, then they take it to a country where they would be certain that they have the facilities, not only in terms of hotel, but also transport. And all the other amenities around the World Cup, and the US was the best option. They've not had to build a stadium at all, not even one. Mexico have had to repair the Estadio Azteca, the one that has now hosted 3 opening games of the World Cup, hosted 1970, 86, and presently. Then Canada have had to rehabilitate, I think, a stadium in Vancouver. US has not had to do anything about this. Not even a single spade of cement has gone into the stadium. But I'm sure
even in Europe, where they also have equally good infrastructure, you could, and for them, the countries, can have it.
Remember, FIFA was still following the thing about bidding,
that
and Europe
Blatter
Blatter had, so it was North America.
But
and for 48, Team World Cup was only going to the US for the first edition.
But Isma, even then, some of us who knew there would be issues with visas.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obvious.
It was obvious. That's why I'm shocked that the world is angry. Ever since, I'm very shocked that the world is angry, because all of us know someone who has been granted a US visa and not traveled and not been able to access the US. Don't you know one? every one of us knows someone who has applied for a visa and they have very good intentions of going to the US and they haven't been able to travel.
Isma, football is about inclusivity, and that's something they want to do. So that's why I blame FIFA. They knew this.
People make a fuss about FIFA, but FIFA do not control the borders. They do not control the government. And the manner in which FIFA was set up by a journalist and a lawyer was to stay outside the... If FIFA was set up to be under the confines of what governments in the world are, because most governments in the world are not popular. Yeah, that's why in every election, in most elections across the world that are free, fair, and transparent, the opposition wins. When the opposition becomes government, then the next opposition wins. FIFA do not have the control. What they've had in the past is that many countries have lessened their visa restrictions for the World Cup. But we all know that the US is a totally different case. And they've never lessened for so many events, not only just the World Cup, because they host so many sports events. Yeah. That has happened so many a time. Then, I want to also return to that story of Omar Attan, the Somali referee. One of the wars that you need to acquaint yourself with is the war between UEFA and FIFA.
Oh, yeah.
I think UEFA are not doing this because they really care about the Somali referee who is started for, or they even know how good a referee is. Yeah? Currently, CAF and UEFA, and even UEFA and CONMEBOL. CONMEBOL is the equivalent of UEFA in South America, have a partnership to do exchange in terms of technical expertise with referees, with coaching, and all this other kind of knowledge. But UEFA are not allowing Omar Attan to referee PSG Aston Villa because they really care about him. But Alexander Seferin and his governing council in Europe see this as an opportunity to hit back at FIFA. Remember that recently when FIFA were announcing prices for ticketing, for example, for the World Cup, and the prices are up out of the roof. Luckily, the two games that we watched, the stadiums have been full. UEFA went ahead and announced their prices. And you know how low the price for that is? I think it's about £20, which is 100,000 Uganda shilling, which is fair for a tournament, I think, in a first world country. And we all know the prices in America have been, the lowest I think was $600. Yeah, and it's not even short higher because they have companies that buy these tickets and resell them. So it's gone up tenfold. So UEFA are not doing this because they really care about Attan. For them, they have a political war to win against FIFA. Unlike so many continents that need FIFA, UEFA do not need FIFA to survive financially. The $9 million that FIFA is paying countries to play in the World Cup, many countries in Europe do not need that money in their FAs. Iran needs it, Ghana needs it, Senegal needs it, Germany do not, neither do France, not even Switzerland need that 9 million. So for them, they are settling a political score. So don't be fooled that now UEFA care about the rights of African referees, so they are fighting. I was going to use French, yeah, but for the benefit of this I won't.
No, but I mean, honestly, I don't think I knew this particular guy.
Yeah.
But seeing that he was...
Okay, I personally knew him. If you watched the CAF Champions League final, the second leg between Asfa Rabat, the Moroccan side, and Mamelodi Sundowns, is the one who was in charge of the second leg. Remember the first leg in South Africa? Jean-Jacques Ndala was one in charge of the first leg in South Africa. Ndala was the referee for the AFCON final between Senegal and Morocco. Then this guy did the second. The second is ranked number 1 or 2 among African referees, right at the top. And that takes a bit of work to get. And he's only 34.
Yes.
Yeah, to think that you would imagine the best referee would have attained a level of experience that they attained that title when they are somewhere around 42, 43 before they retire at 47. So he's been so good that at 34, he's widely regarded as best referee in Africa. But UEFA are not doing that because the best referee.
But I'm sure other opportunities are going to come his way as well.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And now I will remember him because I was going to 104 games. I may not remember too many referees, but definitely.
I saw, I think, a Somali millionaire who was given him $50,000.
See?
I find that wrong, morally, for a referee, because what if this millionaire tomorrow supports Villa? Yeah? Or buys a club, then he owes him something. There's a reason even why today referees are not even allowed to give interviews about the games they've refereed when they are still active. So, yes, it's always good. In my book, it's always good when someone who had 1,000 shillings today has 1,100 tomorrow. Yeah? But sometimes referees are viewed to be morally upright. I thought that, and the kind of gifts and the kind of, he got a huge welcome and went back to Mogadishu. People see him as a hero in his home country, a bit like the former Turkish referees, Kuyunet Kakir, whose statue is somewhere in the Turkish FA offices, if you get a chance to travel to Turkey and reach their offices. He's also refereed I think a Champions League final and the World Cup final before Kakir. So there's all this thing around him, but in the end, I think referees do a job that they are supposed to be viewed a bit like fathers in the Catholic Church. Yeah, they gave up a bit on the world to deliver fairness. Yeah, and I speak from authority because I have 3 classmates who are fathers in the Catholic Church, and I grew up in an area in Masaka where we had a lot of them around Blessed Sacrament, Chimanya. So referees are supposed to be viewed that way, to the extent that I would imagine in Uganda, if you had a chance to interact with the referee, and then tomorrow you find him driving a Lexus, your mind immediately runs to the bad decisions they've had against your team or for your team. Yeah, so some of these things, you've got to be very careful. They have to happen in a bit of moderation. Yeah, because when you're going to lift this guy, and there's a 50,000, I would bet in the next few weeks there'll even be more. Then people will start to think, they'll start to think his ethics, his standards are going to be compromised. It's not a place you want to be.
I know.
You don't want to move in your neighborhood and find the richest person is the Catholic father
and
in your community.
I know there'll be a lot of scrutiny for that PSG Aston Villa game. Yeah. So I really hope he makes all the
Can you imagine
right
if he gets one decision wrong?
I know. It would
and
be horrible.
We see this every weekend in Europe. If he gets one decision wrong, and then social media in Europe will explode around this
Africa's best referee.
Look what he's done. So you really hope he has a great
2025. I hope so too. So let's go to the actual football, the opener. The hosts against South Africa, it was mirrored, 2010. 3 red cards. Does that show excitement? Did that excite you? Is that a precursor of what's to come? A lot of, I don't know, is that violence or?
I think referees have been given a lot of rules, I think, in terms of clamping down on any kind of indiscipline. The red cards that were handed out, I thought all 3 were legit. There's a foul when there's a goal scoring opportunity for Mexico. What was the first red card? Then the second, similar, you could say, that was given to Mexico. Then the third was given after VR review. Themba Zwane, one of my favorite South African players, for that elbow on a Mexican player that needed a VR review before he was sent off. The game itself was not very entertaining. I thought the gulf between the 2 teams was very huge. As much as I expected, I'm not one of those who is on social media and ranting about how poor South Africa were. I've seen a lot of that before we came in here. I think South Africa are not very good. It's the reason why they've not even qualified for the World Cup for this long. Maybe even if there were 5 countries, they wouldn't have. They've qualified because the quota has gone up. But we have so much knowledge about them because of SuperSport and largely because of Dennis Onyango. We get to see them weekly and we get to think they're as good as we imagine. But you've also got to give Mexico a lot of credit. I thought they put South Africa on the back foot. They pressed high up the pitch. They ensured that South Africa cannot play that short 10-meter pass out of the box from Rowan Williams. And when they got their chances, they were very lethal. When the chances they got, most of them were on target or hit the post or needed a save from Rowan Williams. And that's what you do. You give your fans something to feed off. That stadium seats 83,000 people. And that size has been torn down because of these modern safety standards. Just to seat a lot more when Diego Maradona played there in 1986. Now they've toned down the size quite a bit. So it's as much as the host could have got. And while we think of South Africa and their qualification was, Mexico have not missed a World Cup, I think, since 1990. You could argue that they come from a region where they are the kings, CONCACAF. Hardly can they miss a tournament. But they've also produced some good players over that period. To even imagine, someone like Raul Jimenez has been playing in the Premier League. Still his quality, they've been relegated to the championship with this team. Still his quality would be significantly higher than a player coming out of Golden Arrows or Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates. That's the level where the Mexicans are. I was also very keen on the weather because there's been reports that it's going to be very hot.
Yeah,
and
they
we
had
saw
water breaks.
They've become compulsory for every game after every 23 minutes. And we had seen that at the Club World Cup last year because the heat in North America around this time is very, very high. So I thought that would be quite an issue. But I had through commentary that while it wasn't as hot as anticipated on the day, while it was very sunny, it wasn't as hot as everyone had feared. So in the end, the better team won. And I have profound fears for South Africa going forward. I think they could be taken to the cleaners in their next two games. Now you even imagine they are going to be missing two players.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to be missing two players who are suspended for their next encounter. It doesn't look good for Hugo Bruce. It doesn't look good at all.
Okay, let's talk about the other game. Czech Republic, the set piece didn't save them. South Korea coming from behind to win.
And they scored some brilliant goals, the Koreans. It's a World Cup that is going to test our endurance or to test our relationships, both at home and at work. Yeah? Because there are games that are going to be played at 7 p.m., at 10 p.m., at 1 a.m.,
Did
at
you get
3
some
a.m.,
sleep? You don't...
at 4 a.m., at 7 a.m. Yes, I did.
Oh,
I
you
did
had
sleep
makeup to cover the bags under your eyes.
I'll have the bags. The age will bring the bags, not sleep. Yeah? So it's going to test our relationships, and that's one of the things I could first of all come with, because yes, I had quite a sufficient period of sleep, because normally anywhere around 4 hours will do. Yeah, then I can deal with the nap or dozing through a meeting that I can deal with for the rest of the day. For the value of sport, considering that you're going to not only during the World Cup, there's basketball, there's some cricket sometimes when Australia are playing at home. That is also a must on the menu, especially that cricket. It's something that cannot be missed. So I think they want to show people the kind of sacrifice they are going to make. Because one game is at 10, then you catch a bit of sleep, and the next one is very early in the morning, as you're supposed to be getting either children ready for school or getting yourself ready for the hustle that life brings. In the end, the Koreans are the better team, but the manner in which they took their goals for me was the most satisfying. They were not just winning the game, but those goals were taken with aplomb in the end to win that opener 2-1. The Czech Republic seemed to not have a plan B besides their set pieces. And maybe it comes from where they've been. They scored 8 goals from set pieces during their qualifying campaign. And they scored, 14? They did not score many more from open play. So they understand where their strength is and they're trying to capitalize on it. And they thought, of course, the Koreans would be smaller. Yeah, the Koreans are significantly smaller than a country that was part of Yugoslavia. So they thought that size advantage would work, but in the end, they did not have enough left for them to get a result. But I thought it was a better game than the first one, because South Africa is very disappointing for many. I'm not one of those who was surprised they weren't very good. I thought this was an improvement on that, and maybe the level of the tournament will go higher and higher by the time we get a chance to see all the 48 teams out on the pitch. And that will last us what? That will take us more than a week to be able to watch all the 48 teams and also make a judgment on who has been the poorest. Yeah, but a very, very good result for South.
We are very excited about the next group, Brazil versus Morocco. Neymar is actually injured, strangely.
Yeah, he's not taken part in a training session. Many of us felt when he was named, we were very surprised when Carlo Ancelotti picked him. Then he goes into the pre-tournament camp and picks up that calf injury. They've conducted, I think, 3 open training sessions where the media can access, and Neymar has not been seen at any of them. So it's very unlikely, or it's almost unthinkable, that he'll be there for that game on Sunday morning between Brazil and Morocco, which is a repeat of that game back in 1998. The Brazilians, 5-time champions, when we discussed the things they could do to win the tournament in the previous edition, one of the things I felt is that now they have a European manager in Carlo Ancelotti who understands his players, considering that most of them are leaving Brazil at the age of 17. So the education they have is more European than it is South American. They've got to start on the right note. Against a Moroccan side that were the best performers from Africa in the last edition, reached the semi-finals of that World Cup. There's been a bit of change in that squad because Walid Regragui is gone, their coach, but they've also been some positive changes. The other week I was talking about how now they have a balance between a left-footed centre-back and Issa Diop, who is right-footed. Unfortunately, little did I know that by the time we come back here, Naif Agua would not be in the side because he's gone home injured. So they've got to get a replacement in that area. And then you really hope that for everything that the Moroccans will do, their best bet is to go down the right flank with Ashraf Hakimi. His ability to carry the ball and beat players and play that final ball, maybe then Brahim Diaz can profit from it. We should also be very interested also in seeing what kind of team and game plan Ancelotti is going to employ, because that will be a template upon which Brazil will try to build upon. Like I stated before, these two were in the same group in 98 alongside Norway and Scotland. Norway are not in the same group this time, but I think Scotland and Haiti complete the group. So I think Brazil-Morocco should be, for me, the game of the weekend of those that are happening, and the one that is worth losing a few hours of sleep on Sunday morning and arriving in church when the preacher is exiting, or at least when they are handing out the bread, yeah, then you know it's around the time that they're about to leave.
Okay, what about USA? They have home advantage versus Paraguay, who are returning after 16 years.
First, there's going to be an opening ceremony, like we stated, because it's the US's first game at the Sophie Stadium. I think the most scenic of the stadiums that are going to be used to the World Cup. I think there's a bit of water outside the stadium. It's amazing. It's very beautiful. I was watching a piece done by the former US goalkeeper Casey Keller, and it was amazing. The view, I also thought the pictures were maybe recorded by someone as good as Rasta behind our camera, because the delivery was that good. So the USA, for their first home game, that place will be bouncing. Everyone thinks the coach they have in charge is better than everyone they've ever had. I'm one of those who is part of that bandwagon. And not only because Mauricio Pochettino is Argentine, I would support him basing on that, but also I think he improves players. That's the one thing we should look out for the American side. And like I stated, most of the attacking impetus is going to go through Christian Pulisic. If it does well in the game, then the USA will get a positive result. This was the Paraguay side that most of us were accustomed to, yeah? There's a time when they could pull out someone like Rocky Santa Cruz, who played at Blackburn, played at Bayern Munich, played at Chelsea. It's not the same quality. And of course, Jose Luis Chilavat, yeah? For those who could go further back, the goalkeeper. It's not the same kind of quality. They are not playing right at the very top. But there's also a bit of pressure, I think, for the Americans when you're playing at home for the World Cup. And even the Americans who call football soccer will pay attention to this. And if the team doesn't do well, then they are thinking, why are we even having this brand of football that we do not understand? Because they can be very, very critical. That's why I remember telling a story of that writer in the Chicago Sun back in 1994 who watched the World Cup final, and his conclusion was that he had found the reason why football fans are violent. Because you can watch a game for 2 hours, almost 3 hours, and nothing happens in the game. Of course, totally different from American sport. When you watch your basketball, there's something happening every 24 seconds. Even in the NFL and all these other ice hockey and all the other sports. Of course, baseball is a lot more slower. You could sit in a stadium for 2 hours and there is no home run. Yeah, the pitcher is that good. The pitchers are that good, and there's nothing that is happening in terms of hits. So it's almost, for me, extremely important that America do well in the tournament, just so that the people there appreciate the tournament perhaps much more. And it also maybe stop the negativity from people like Mabel and the world around the World Cup.
Isma, I wish you knew my pain, but I don't think you do. But anyway, we move. That's life, as you say. Yeah, you know my pain.
I love to see when you have a bit of emotion, because for the years I've known you, you tend to keep everything in check. You tend to have your faculties firm.
Isma, this one has hurt me for sure. Anyway, let's read. I want to read this as we talk about Qatar versus Switzerland. Switzerland has reached the World Cup finals 13 times and progressed to the round of 16 in their last 3 outings. Manager Yakin faces pressure to finally beat past the initial knockout stage, and they're calling it the round of 16 curse for Switzerland.
Yeah, they never go far. We've watched them. They are normally a very good team, yeah, but they always lack that X factor. They are always perhaps one player short, yeah, of getting over that hump. Maybe that was supposed to be delivered like by someone who is called the Alpine Messi, yeah, Shakira, the former Liverpool playmaker. Yeah, it's called the Alpine Messi. Maybe it was supposed to deliver that. Because they've had some decent players, their quality, people might question Johan Joru and Felipe Senderos at the time they played at Arsenal. Some could even question Granit Xhaka, who is one of the leaders of that side, even at his age. But the Swiss always have a team, yeah, that is able to go up against the big boys and compete.
13 is a huge number, 13 finals.
Yeah. And like you stated, they've been to round of 16. Now, this time, there's even a round of 32 before they can think about the round of 16. And that's almost writing off Qatar, that they will be able to get a result against Qatar. And Qatar were the most immediate past hosts of the World Cup, would want to make us think what they did back then in Doha was not a fluke. They organized, I think, a sumptuous tournament. Yeah, we all enjoyed it. But now the football has got to speak for them. But they will be underdogs. They will be big underdogs against the Swiss side.
Okay. The other host is in action, Canada against Bosnia.
Bosnia, for whom the bigger story is around Edin Dzeko. He's one of the oldest players at this World Cup. Outside of Craig Gordon, Cristiano Ronaldo, and a few others. I think he's somewhere around the 6 oldest players. at this tournament, the former Manchester City striker. And he was also very good during the qualifiers. Was there every time they needed him and scored, I think, a considerable number of goals to get them to this World Cup. Of course, Bosnia, sometimes when you think about them, the first thing that comes first is the history of Eastern Europe and the breakout of Yugoslavia and the pain that people there have had to endure. I remember one of my best stories around Bosnian football surrounds a former Bayern Munich and Juventus midfielder called Hasan Salihamidzic. Those of my generation would have watched him. Salihamidzic tells a story that back in 1994, before the United Nations closed the borders of Bosnia, there had been a bit of a lockdown. So he managed to escape as a refugee today, and the next day UN, I would even call it the USA, UN announced a border closure for Bosnia, and they were closed for the next 4 years. So had he not got out then, his football career was dead.
Destiny.
Yeah, so a bit of destiny. And that story has always stuck with me. So they show up for this against what is called as the golden generation of Canadian football, largely because of two players, Alphonso Davies of Bayern Munich and Jonathan David of Juventus. Jonathan David moved from Lille to Juventus this season. So the Canadians will be feeling very confident, but those Eastern European nations, for me, are always very technically sound. Yeah, the basic 5-10 meter pass and movement, they wouldn't struggle in those facets of the game, positioning, the basic passing. So they'll ask the Canadians a bit of questions. But like I stated, of Mexico needing to start well, like I've mentioned of the Americans needing to go out in their first game and do well, I would say the same of the Canadians. All this talk about them having this golden generation of football, it's got to show on the pitch. It's got to show on the pitch.
You know, Isma, other than England, I would actually want a new winner of the World Cup.
Why do you say other than England?
Because that's my team. I would want so when the passion with which you're talking about Eastern Europe, I would want another. I'm a person who believes in equality.
The new winner would be Portugal.
That is okay as well. Yeah, for Ronaldo to
Well,
have one on Messi.
One of he doesn't need to have one on Messi. Argentina won 2 World Cups before Messi came along.
No. I'm just saying this debate of Ronaldo Messi. It would kind of, because now people say Messi is better just because he has a World Cup. Because
he won a World Cup, yeah.
So
I'm always one of those that wants to think that greatness should not only be measured in glitter, yeah, because that's not sufficient for me. There are things to do with character. There are things to do with the general thing about the game. The things you cause a trend. Yeah? You cause a trend in the game. And it's not sufficient for me just to have glitter. Messi could win another World Cup and I would come here and say Maradona is greater. Yeah, he won one.
The same country.
Yeah, I would still say Maradona is greater. And Pele has 3. Yeah. Do people in Romania think he's the greatest? Maybe they think Georgia Hagi is. Do those in Bulgaria think Hristo Stoichkov is worse than Pele? Maybe not. So the thing about glitter, but we've enjoyed the argument for a large period of the past 15 or so years. So maybe if Ronaldo goes out and delivers one, but of the teams that you're stating, a first-time winner, I think the closest of the first-time winners would be Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the transfers that are happening now. Nico Williams, Julian Alvarez, and Rashford. We have talked about Rashford. Do you think Michael Carrick will take him back?
There is no option unless he sits with the club and says he's choosing to terminate his contract, because the reports we've seen this week is that Barcelona are not going to pay the asking price of Marcus Rashford, and neither are they willing to take off on, but first the transfer fee, because Manchester United have set a cap on the minimum they are willing to take for him, and Barcelona are not willing to pay that. And then there is the issue about the wages. So there's a very interesting story that I saw this week that Arsenal could jump in and want to take Marcus Rashford on. And an Arsenal fan asked me whether that would be a good move for the Arsenal to sign Marcus Rashford. And the first thing that comes to my mind that he's an improvement on Martinelli and Trossard. Yeah, that if you had him in that position, is better than both. Would United be willing to do a deal with Arsenal? They've done a few. Of course, most of them is where United have benefited with Robin van Persie. The others, Arsenal have been losers in those. When you sign players like Mikel Silvestri, they've signed some from United who have Danny Welbeck and a few others. It hasn't really come off well in that sense. But maybe still has some years to give. I think he deserves an opportunity at the top. I really hope, one, that Barcelona come back because he scored 14 for them. Yeah. They've got rid of Robert Lewandowski. So they may be short of numbers down the middle. Rashford does not like playing as a centre forward, but I think he still brings a bit of quality that Barcelona do not have. So it would only be smart if they kept him in that position. At this point, they do not seem like they want to, yeah, because like I've stated, the financials involved. Even Anthony Gordon, for example, who they signed from Newcastle, and he plays in exactly the position where Marcus Rashford loves, it's cheaper to have Gordon, transfer fee and wages, than to have Rashford, transfer fee and wages. So yet Gordon has the transfer fee has been high, over 60 million pounds or so. So it's going to be a story that goes on. And I can imagine if Rashford walks out at the World Cup and does some good things, then United can cause a bidding war somewhere for someone else who wants to take him. And that's a story that is going to be around for a bit of time. The other one, from those you mentioned, is Julian Alvarez. I think I want to join the Atletico Madrid social media team. The manner in which they go and belittle clubs that make an attempt to sign their best player. The other week, they were belittling Barcelona and even offered Barcelona ticket to a concert. Yeah? Tickets to a concert and Pedri, to take Pedri, because they know Barcelona is broke. Now they went gaga on Real Madrid because remember, when Florentino Perez, who we talked about the other week, stood to be president and won 65% of the vote, one of the promises he made is that they are going to sign a player worth 150 million euros from a Champions League side. And the reports indicated it would be either Mike Olise at first, and eventually Bayern Munich rebuffed that and were very unequivocal in their anger and stating that Mike Olise has no price. Then they go and place a bid for Julian Alvarez. Whoever wrote that fax should regret having written that fax message that went to Atletico, because the response was very uncanny. It sounded like an argument I would have at my Muzigoi. Yeah, people accuse people who live in Mizigo of being very, very uncouth with their language. I thought Atletico got close to that, in almost belittling Real Madrid, and at the end they also stated that they will only be willing to let go of Alvarez if someone paid the entire release clause, which is 500 million euros to be exact. And Real Madrid are not going to pay that. And this is how Real Madrid does over the assigned players. They unsettle the player with a bid, then they discuss with their team, then the player starts maybe to miss a training session, then you're left in no place but have to sell the player. Julian Alvarez does not look like he's going to do that because he's not played as good this one like he played in the last. So maybe the transfer fee does not go high. But also if I'm Atletico Madrid, you want to cause a bidding war, because earlier there was talk that Arsenal and PSG would be very interested in signing the same player. So you do not sit on a negotiating table with Real Madrid offering the bare minimum, and he will not. And whoever gets Julian Alvarez, it will not be cheap. They
so
invest.
Then why are they abusing everyone when still someone can pay?
How much would they pay? Because the other teams maybe if someone came with 220 million euros, they would have a conversation just around the money that PSB paid for Neymar. Yeah, that's around the fee that you'd be thinking about. The other player you mentioned is Nico Williams.
Yeah.
Hasn't had a great season at Athletic Bilbao or Athletic Club. They dropped the Bilbao name. Yes, Ize is called Athletic Club. The left-sided Spanish winger, heavily linked with Arsenal currently, would be a plus. I think everyone, and I've always argued that in Europe, I think agents and journalists sit down every morning at breakfast and decide where they are going to drive the narrative for the day. Yeah? And that's what happens for me routinely. I think there's going to be so many players linked with Arsenal on that left side because all of us know Trossard and Martinelli were not very good this season. But Nico Williams for me is a possibility. He has a huge buyout clause, I think, to about 300 million, but they could easily negotiate and lower that. And while he has a 10-year contract, and this is some of the crazy things that have happened in football over the last few years, Haaland has a 10-year contract at City, so does Nico Williams, and doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, that's a bit
They're being clever.
Yeah, they are being very clever in terms of raising transfer fees, but it sounds like you're being hired by government. Yeah, and football is not government. This is a private sector. It's a private sector driven thing. So to imagine that his contract is that huge is maybe trying to get a huge transfer fee for him. For me, it's a huge possibility. And wherever it goes, and if it were Arsenal, I think it will bring a lot more pace and intelligence on that left side, would be a huge plus. And for me, Arsenal have to make a decision. Do they want to sign another centre forward or another left-sided player? What's more urgent? Because I do not think they are going to have the resources to sign two players whose cost is 100 million plus in one window. Yeah? Even Liverpool that did it, you see how they suffered. The results went haywire. But Nico Williams, this would be the right time for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because before he signed a 10-year contract, there had been a bid linking him to Barcelona. There was talk because of his closeness to Lamine Yamal in the aftermath of Spain winning the Euros. Then he goes home, he goes back to Athletic Club and signs a 10-year contract just to emphasize that he wasn't going to Barcelona. So that will not die. I think the entire summer will be dominated by Nico Williams too. Then you fill in the gaps of what club that will be.
There's Senesi and Elliott.
Yeah, Senesi, who has also joined actually the Argentine national team. Initially wasn't in the initial squad, but they've had an injury and replaced him with Senesi, the Bournemouth defender, whose contract ran out at Bournemouth. So he's joining Tottenham Hotspur. He's joining De Zerbi, will be a plus defensively. He's 28, so there's a lot of experience already. In there is Premier League quality. He will help him a considerable bit, considering they've had Romero, Mickey van der Veen, Kevin Danso. They've been short of quality in that area. Senesi brings that. Now, the rambling over Elliot Anderson. Which Manchester club will get him? Eventually, the one that has been bidding repeatedly is Manchester City. And the report was that Man City have bid £105 million for him and included £15 million in add-ons, which would bring the fee to £120 million. But the Nottingham Forest owner, Marinakis, who is an investor on cruise ships, he has quite a fleet of cruise ships, and sometimes his actions are a bit like looking for the direction of a ship on the high oceans, using a compass. He's insisted that they would only take a minimum of £120 million, not 105 and 15 million in add-ons. They want this entire 120, and the structure of the payment should not be over a long period of time. So Man City have to sit back and decide whether they want him that badly. The next debate is around whether he's that good to warrant that kind of money. But the first thing that comes to mind is English, coming from one Premier League side to another. So that would cost you a lot. And he's a starter for the national side. He'll be starting when they walk out against Croatia next week in the World Cup. yes, he has qualities of controlling the game at the best of the midfield and breaking up play. And these days, later on, I think in the season, he's also been able to make that run and get in the 18-yard box and get into scoring positions. That's what you're buying with him, with Elliot Anderson. Proven Premier League quality because he played at Newcastle before, was deemed surplus to requirements before he went to Nottingham Forest. So he's getting a big shot now at a top club. If Man City eventually pay that kind of money, because earlier on in the summer, there was talk of United would be interested. That has died down quite a bit. Seems like the negotiations between Man City and Nottingham Forest. City are also still in a conversation with Chelsea over the coach, Enzo Maresca. Remember, everyone knows Enzo Maresca will be the next next Man City coach. But normally when these coaches walk out of jobs or they are sacked at clubs, they are given conditions that within 1 year you cannot take up another club, especially in the same league. That when you do, there will be compensation because currently Chelsea are still paying Maresca a salary. So there's still that negotiation that is ongoing to bring down the kind of money that City would have to pay Chelsea in terms of compensation to get Maresca. So you really hope that Maresca has actually recommended that they bring Elliot Anderson because the links were there even before he got the job. Yeah, and the part of the reason why Maresca was sacked was the fact that the owners at Chelsea got reports that he was already talking to City to join the moment Pep Guardiola leaves, and that did not sit down with Bloco, the company that owns and runs Chelsea, and that's how he's ended up in this kind of mess. So there's a lot of things around City, but it also emphasizes that the decisions are not entirely around who the head coach wants, because the decisions like around Elliot Anderson are being made by Hugo Viana, the sporting director. He played at Newcastle previously and also played for Sporting Lisbon in that Portuguese side when Ronaldo was coming through. Left-footed central midfielder. Eventually, the talent was way up there and the potential, it didn't achieve any of it. But here he's making decisions on Elliot Anderson and Enzo Maresca joining Man City.
Okay. Let's move now to the Rugby Premiership here in Uganda. Heathens, Pirates. But anything you can tell us regarding the late Sydney Gongodio? It's just so sad. I saw a couple of videos of him during the week, and I saw also the son of the late Jacob Olanya.
Andrew Joke Olanya. That's his name.
In Parliament.
He's also vice president of Uganda Rugby Union. That's a capacity sometimes where he makes a case for sport. And
I was very happy that he's young, and he did say what he said in Parliament, saying that, this could happen to any one of us,
Except the speaker, because they say they expect you, the speaker.
Because you have security.
Because the rest of us move without any security.
And I don't
Not know. Even Mebo, and you deserve security.
Thank you, Isma. But it's just so sad. There's a particular picture that I'd only just seen where it seems he was even asking for mercy. He didn't try to fight back. The questions around death never stop, because one of the things I've asked myself repeatedly, and I've resisted watching a lot of the videos that you people have watched. I watched one and could not get through it, and I decided that that's the last of it. So whenever I see a video whose caption is Sydney, I scroll and go to the next thing. I want to retain all the good things I saw him do on the rugby pitch. But the one thing that came to my mind is that knowing how strong Sydney was, I've always asked myself, why couldn't he fight and beat one of them? Because normally in a fight like that, you beat one, they are bound to scatter. But also, when you're innocent, you find it much easier to try and prove you're innocent than fight back. Yeah? If he had been guilty, if he had stolen the handbag, he's more likely to fight for his safety. Someone who is innocent is more likely to say, you guys, I didn't do this, please. Yeah? And those are the questions around. Where's the girl, the lady? I haven't seen any picture of her.
Why would you want to see?
No, because she's the one who shouted, thief, thief. So, anyway, maybe in the midst of all that, maybe she wouldn't have seen a lot of the stuff that has happened.
So Sydney Gongodia has been laid to rest this week in Sironko district. That's a place of Nandala Mafabi, the former presidential candidate for the FDC. I think the place is called Budadi, yeah? And there was a lot of questions. Of course, I've also known that several people have been arrested since, and they should be appearing in court very soon.
Are we going to have a court
About
like
13.
Okello?
The
An open
Okello court was down to President Museveni saying would have it. I don't know whether it's an operation of the judiciary now. That was a presidential order, so they could easily, of course, a presidential order that had also been backed by the CDF. Yeah? And these are two people from under one roof. Yeah, when they make a decision, that is it. So I don't know whether we'll get the same presidential, but at least there's been a bit of pressure. If you trust your social media, there's the coffee of what the public wants, and they seem more proactive. So several people have been arrested and now arraigned in court to answer to charges of killing, of a murder. So maybe we'll get to that in terms of evidence. But as that was happening, Paris decided to retire his jersey, number 7. No one will wear it. It will be quite an emotional occasion because at Chadondo on Saturday at 4 p.m., Heathens will be playing Pirates in the Rugby Premiership semi-final. That game should have played the previous week on Saturday before Sydney Gongodio was killed on Friday. So the game was postponed by a week and will be happening. I can imagine it's going to be very, very emotional being at Chadondo on Saturday just to see in what shape both teams emerge, because Gongodio ceased to be just a player for Paris. Seemed like the rugby community actually felt like they owned him. Everyone has expressed their gratitude to what he gave to the game, and everyone has been involved in the condolence and mobilization around Gongodio.
I even saw other federations, I don't know if I can call them federations, but basketball putting out a message.
Yeah.
I think
Uganda Olympic Committee. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, it's the one thing. If happiness does not bring you together, sorrow will. The world has made it somehow in that day. So hopefully, in the end, we have some rugby to discuss in our next episode. That will not be necessary, but everyone will be missing Gongodio. And I watched the Heathens chairman, my friend Desire Mugumisa, saying that Gongodio seemed to play his best game against the Heathens every time. So you can just imagine that was just a rugby thought. But there would be even more, to come out of that. I've also seen there is a gentleman who does a lot of social media content and video. I think his name is Morgan. What's his name? Should be Chris or something. He's done some very good work in paying tribute to Sydney Gongodio. You could actually go and check it out. The videos on the Pirates handle. So that semi-final will come after we've known who the other finals will be, because there's also Buffaloes versus Impis. Buffaloes lead from that first leg at the Graveyard. They won at Impis in Makerere. So the second game is also happening.
Okay. Now to the NBA, the NBA. What happened?
What a collapse.
Oh my goodness. 29. And I think I heard that this has been one of the greatest comebacks.
It is the greatest comeback, not one of the greatest. I want to borrow from the words of Charles Barkley, the former Phoenix Suns forward, who does analysis on Inside the NBA on ESPN. He describes San Antonio Spurs as the damn best team he's ever watched in basketball, and I totally agree. They were leading by 29 points with 9:27 to play in the third quarter, and they had the fourth quarter to come. And they found a way to lose. After leading by 29, because the series, this is game 4, the series is 2-1, the New York Knicks are leading. And if the San Antonio Spurs win that, then it's 2-2 before the series moves to San Antonio on Saturday night into Sunday morning. So they decide to get greedy. They refuse to play with the same kind of intensity they had played with in the first half. And they were eventually beaten by the 1 point, 106 to 105, which now puts the New York Knicks on the brink of their first NBA title. They lead that series by 3-1 because of Oji Onunobi, who scored 33, and then you have Jalen Brunson, who scored 36. And actually, Jalen Brunson, if you understand the drafting system of the NBA, he was only drafted in the second round, so he wasn't good enough to go among the top 30 players when he was first drafted in the NBA. But what a story if the Knicks go and win. We've discussed repeatedly how this is their first appearance in the NBA Finals in 27 years, but also seeking to win their first championship since 1973. I wasn't here, you weren't here. My parents were not even married then in 1973 when the Knicks won. So it's quite a story if they've been able to get over that hump. And if they were to do that inside 5 games in San Antonio, to emphasize the dominance. Remember, they won 13 games in a row in the postseason before they lost that game 3. And then they are back on their bike. If they just deliver one more result, the party is going to be very huge in the capital of millionaires, like it's described.
Isma, will you be getting any sleep?
I will. I know when to sleep.
You know when to sleep?
Yeah. Sleep is not an affair of 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. I know when to sleep, but it's going to be a very busy weekend because I think I need to be there for that Heathens Pirates game and be part of the tributes that will happen before the game for Sydney Gongodio. I also think I'll watch Brazil, Morocco, but it might touch a bit of San Antonio Spurs against the New York Knicks. So I think I should be able. And when in the morning when I woke up and found, because I didn't start the game between South Korea and Czech Republic, I also remembered I found a T20 game between Sri Lanka and the West Indies. Yeah, eventually the West Indies won. Rovman Paul hit the winning runs. They won by 7 wickets. So my remote can be confused sometimes. But it just has to stay with the batteries. Then we'll have a conversation. I know you've also been following Serena Williams. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She says she wants to come back.
She came back and won a game.
Mboko.
Yeah. With Victoria Mboko.
Yeah.
She won a game at Queen's, which is a preparatory tournament for Wimbledon. And then Mboko got injured playing a singles match. So they were knocked out that way. She couldn't play in the next game at Queen's. And you must be very, you accuse me of not sleeping, but you watch as much, because of your love for tennis. And I know after Queen's is Stuttgart.
But
then
you
Wimbledon.
see, for me, I have another job. But for you, your job is sport. So for those people out there watching, especially the young ones, be wise like Isma. Find your passion and make sure you get paid
invest
for
in
it.
yourself.
And you invest, because it's your job as sports editor.
Yeah, that's partly it. But I think tomorrow.
So your boss is understanding. If you walk in at midday.
Tomorrow, if NMG decided that there's a better person to do the job than I would, and they could be someone better, I don't even want to think I would. No one. If you played football and you thought you were Ortega, we brought Messi, way better. If they bring a Messi who can do the job better, I think I'll still watch as much sport because I watched as much before I became a sports journalist.
But that's very humbling. I remember where I was with Michael Owen scoring as a teenager and how people were all over Michael Owen. Now I look at Michael Owen on TV. He even looks older than me.
And actually now when you replay the videos and the goals he scored in his time, you've seen better strikers than Michael Owen.
Yeah, you just come, you don't know. So anyway, let's not take anything for granted. We don't take you for granted. And we would like to say a huge shout out to our host today, UDI's Hub here, Robert Mugabe Road in Mbuya hair, they got you nails, they got you, and of course, makeup. Was that Brandon who just passed by?
Yes, he looks different.
They are doing his
When
hair.
you see Brandon on the next episode, you won't believe it's him.
Yeah.
He looks like someone who is working at Supersport during
they
this
worked on
World
his
Cup.
face, hot towels, what?
For a man who comes from the ghetto, if you find him at the garage in Nakulabi, you won't know he's the same person. But anyway, also remember DSTV.
Out
Go
of the
and subscribe.
104 games, I think we're left with 100.
We are not yet even at 100. We've by the time we shot this, we've watched 2.
So, okay.
There's 102 games, so there's every reason for you to subscribe. Subscribe. These games are happening at night. There's even more reason. Like DSTV is saying, everything else can wait. Get your DSTV, get your GoTV decoder, pay your subscription, so that you sit in the comfort of your living room. I don't know that people eat popcorn at night. What would you be eating when you're watching football at that time? Maybe
Actually,
pineapples?
I had fene.
Yeah. That's always
With
fantastic.
Black tea.
That's crazy. So for DSTV and God, there's a lady who sells me jackfruit, fene, in my neighborhood. And I haven't bought from her this week because someone gave me mangoes. Yeah. And then I've seen I can only have one fruit a week. Yeah. Either it's the mangoes or the fene or it's the pineapple. So maybe I'm coming back because the mangoes are done. So in front of your TV with DSTV and GoTV, get something because you'll struggle through the games if you're not munching on something. It cannot be popcorn at that time.
This is Second Take with IDK. Do remember to share this link, to like, and to subscribe to the channel. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Are you tired of the daily hustle and bustle, the endless traffic just to get your little one to a good school? GMS Bingo offers a unique blend of academic excellence with a holistic child development in both nursery and primary. We provide a national curriculum with an international touch. Enroll your child today by visiting our campus along Trinity College Bingo Road. GMS Bingo, where every child's potential is a reality. Because we care.